Hello, friends. Poland is tightening the screws from migrants to soldiers. Warsaw is radically rewriting the rules of the game, who will have their loopholes closed in the citizenship law, and why holders of the Karta Polaka are under threat. And most importantly, why is the Polish General Staff introducing life imprisonment for disobeying orders in battle? We'll break it all down now. We have two pieces of news. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel right now. Friends, thank you so much for your congratulations. Yesterday was my birthday. There were a lot of comments. Seriously, no jokes or pranks. Thank you so much for your support. By the way, just a reminder that the best money transfer service is TransferGo. The link is in the description. Send money to your family and loved ones. Support them if you can. Now let's get down to business. The Ministry of Internal Affairs and Administration has undertaken not just a cosmetic renovation, but a complete overhaul of its migration legislation. The newspaper Rzeczpospolita brought us some delightful news. The Poles have practically succeeded, a project for large-scale changes to the citizenship law. Naturally, this will primarily affect citizens of Ukraine, because Ukrainians have been the largest group of applicants for Polish passports for years. But if you look into the details of the reform, it turns out that it opens up an abyss of pure state cynicism. Let's break this down step by step. Well, let's get straight to the point. There are simply four horsemen of Polish bureaucracy. Let's call them that. As I already said, the management, our dear bosses, decided to tighten the screws in four areas at once. If before the Polish passport was issued, some Poles even say they were just handing them out left and right. I'll tell you, no, it wasn't just handing them out, but they were issued relatively briskly. Yes, because in the country, as far as I know, 40,000 Ukrainian citizens with Polish eagles on their document covers have already settled. But now that opportunity is being closed. To start with, there's an 8-year requirement. Yes, the residency period in the country will be increased to 8 years. And it's not clear whether the years under temporary protection will count toward that. We'll discuss this point now. You might say, 8 years, a passport, Dennis. What are you talking about? I'll explain now. Look further. Language barrier, level B2. So it's not just about understanding by ear or being reasonable. Level B2 is actually quite strict. That means the ability to speak fluently and understand complex topics, including legal and official texts. And then there's a test for correctness. Yes, a copy of the Danish model, an exam on the history, constitutional structure, and culture of Poland. And there's also a kind of loyalty hook, the introduction of mandatory signing of a loyalty declaration. This is a legal loophole that will allow the state to take away the passport from those suspected of actions against the interests of Poland. What's interesting is, as I understand it, the law won't apply retroactively, right? None of the so-called visionaries, Mansons, Browns, and the others, true Poles, were born here. No one will take their passports. Right now, even according to the Constitution, you can't take it away, not even from spies, but the new regulation will fix that. Look, who will be worse off because there's a certain myth about this reform, so it's a reality check. If an ordinary person looks at the point about 8 years of waiting, they'll think it's some kind of terrible blow to regular working migrants, but that's nonsense. For an ordinary labor migrant who came to Poland like yours truly to work at some factory, construction site, or even in IT, it doesn't matter. This law practically doesn't change anything at all. Let's just calculate the standard work path of a foreigner in Poland before getting a passport. First, you stay on residence cards, Karta Pobytu. You'll get at least 2 of them. Then, after 5 years of continuous residence, you get the status of a long-term EU resident. You serve another 3 years, so in total that's 8. So it's 8 in total. But given the long queues, you can comment how long you waited or are waiting for your residence card. Only after that, so in total it takes 10 years, and then you have the right to apply for citizenship. An ordinary worker used to wait 10 years for their passport as well. For him, it's a fixed 8 years by law. It's just a statement of what already exists. But who does this reform affect? Yeah, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but this is a blow to holders of the Poles card. That's it. So, those who used to be considered a privileged class. Because really, the Poles card is an interesting thing. It gives a lot of benefits. And first of all, yes, well, because it confirms Polish origin, like your grandfather or grandmother was, let's say, Polish. And the path to citizenship is shortened to literally just 2 or 3 years. So it's kind of like cheating and the fastest path to upward mobility in the European Union. I mean, the scheme worked like clockwork. I'll tell you, I have acquaintances who got legal status through the Poles card. You come to Poland with the Poles card. You literally get a residence permit right away, permanent residency. After just 1 year of living there, you have the right to apply for citizenship for free, And you even get a relocation allowance from the government. Well, that's pretty good. Now that free ride is over, if the reform passes, holders of the Poles card will be equalized in rights, or rather in lack of rights, with everyone else. That's it. The 8-year residency requirement ruins the appeal of this repatriation program. Why did they even do this, you might ask? Polish capital really does need millions of workers, but the Polish state absolutely does not need millions of new citizens who have the right to vote, because damn, you guys are just not the right kind. You are not assimilated to the core. Even if you get a Polish passport, I'll tell you, nothing much will really change in your life. They'll still think you're not a proper Pole. Well, of course, that's what the real Poles will think. It used to be that if you had a Polish grandmother, that meant you were one of us. Today, pragmatism has won. The sentimentality of the state now openly says, we don't care who your grandmother is. You grew up in a different culture. Come on, go through the standard process like everyone else. Learn the language to B2 level. Pass the hardest history exam. Wait 8 years. You'll just have to sit tight. There's nothing you can do about it. And the cherry on top of this bureaucratic cake, or torte, probably torte, proof of loyalty. The chairman of the Union of Ukrainians in Poland, Mr. Miroslav Skirko, is sounding the alarm, saying this smacks of nationalism and introduces the idea of conditional citizenship. And you know, the taxi driver I ride with says, damn, Mr. Miroslav is absolutely right. So friends, what time is it? It's the perfect time to hit like, especially for the recent birthday. So Poland is basically creating a legal precedent for second-class citizenship. It's like you got the eagle on your passport, right? But you have the sword of Damocles hanging over you for life. If something goes wrong, if you comment on historical events, for example, about Volhynia, or you expressed some kind of incorrect geopolitical position, some kind of unauthorized rally, Polish intelligence services can interpret this as an action against the security interests of the Republic, and that's it. Dear friend, your passport will be annulled and you will be sent away. Well, either out of the country or to jail. In short, this is an example of how a modern European state, in a time of crisis, gets rid of all this humanistic nonsense. The economy needed a workforce. The doors were open. Poles cards were being handed out. Yes, as soon as the critical mass of migrants was reached and the geopolitical situation heated up, as you can see, the rules of the game are being rewritten on the fly. So, well, that's the reality, my friends. Capitalism, as they say, if you want happiness, help yourself. If you want to be a Polish citizen, just write whether you need a Polish passport or not. Forget about your roots and obediently accept the local ideological agenda. And every second you have to prove your loyalty. That's how it is, comrades, yes. Write what you think. So let's move on to the second topic. The Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of National Defense of Poland are seriously discussing a radical tightening of military discipline. So much so that I think ordinary soldiers who read all this probably had their hair stand on end. And we're talking no less than about introducing life imprisonment for disobeying an order in battle. Well, look, this is the kind of military legal precedent we're dealing with. What are the Polish reformers proposing? They created an entire commission. They created an entire commission for the codification of criminal law under the Ministry of Justice of Poland, and they prepared a package of amendments to the criminal code. The document is already on the desk of the Minister of Defense, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz. That's the gentleman who, well, has some kind of obsession. Yes, once a month he comes out and says that those Ukrainians driving expensive cars should go back and defend their homeland with weapons in their hands. I don't know, maybe someone ran over his foot. Or what's his deal with expensive cars? Is it some kind of trigger for him? You're a minister. Why do cars trigger you? Yes, the point of the proposal is simple. For disobedience and refusal to follow orders during combat operations, now they don't just want disciplinary action or some kind of guardhouse. Yeah. Right. The maximum penalty in such cases can be up to 30 years in prison or even life imprisonment. Just think about it, a life sentence for a soldier who was in battle. For example, he was told to go assault a tree line. He says, but how? I only have one rifle, doesn't matter. Or if he retreated without orders. That's how it is, my friends. The most interesting thing about this story is where the Polish lords draw their inspiration from. Yes, Kosiniak-Kamysz says directly that they are analyzing Ukraine's experience. And indeed, they've had more than enough of that experience in Poland for 4 years now. There's something to analyze. After the full-scale war began, the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine quickly rewrote things. The laws, tightening responsibility for desertion, going AWOL, and disobeying orders in combat situations. Yes, there was that much-talked-about Bill 8271. But if we face the truth... Sorry, as you can imagine, I had a few drinks yesterday and I just woke up. But Ukraine has been and is fighting a tough defensive war here and now. Emergency measures there were dictated by the urgent need to hold the front at a critical moment. Poland? At the moment, it's not at war with anyone. It's in NATO's rear area. And yet, even now in peacetime, the Polish elites are already preparing the legal framework in advance to force their soldiers into the trenches. And to make them stay there, right, under the threat of rotting in prison for the rest of their days. And why is this being done? You might ask, my friends. Any modern army is built on a unified principle. That's the foundation. But when a state starts putting life sentences into the criminal code for disobeying orders, well, that might indicate a crisis of trust between the military elite and the rank and file. Yes, because the elite definitely won't be sitting in the trenches. And Kasinia Kamish won't show up there either. Well, there you go. But the ruling class understands that dying for someone else's interests, for the profits of defense corporations, or for some abstract geopolitical schemes, well, there are a few fools, of course. Patriots, farmers, civilian patrols, I'm sure that they will be the first to join the army. Well, if ever, if, God forbid, something happens in Poland. But all that ideological conditioning about defending the motherland probably only works until the first artillery rounds start coming in. Or drones. And that's exactly when a soldier at the front faces a dilemma. What should I do? Die under fire? If I follow the senseless order of some idiot commander, or retreat and survive? And the state wants to deprive him of that choice. So think about what you prefer, a drone or sitting in a cell, maybe for the rest of your life. In general, the head of the Ministry of Defense is maneuvering carefully for now. He says we haven't made any final decisions yet. We're all analyzing things here. It's just for effective defense. The fact that these bills are on the minister's table shows the Polish general's mindset. That's how it is, friends. The Polish state is adapting very quickly and pragmatically to the realities of the new Cold War. Potentially, of course, it could turn hot, but what can you do? They're making it harder to get citizenship to exclude the disloyal and keep only those they can control. And now they're getting the stick ready for their own army. So that the guys in camouflage don't even think about questioning the orders of their own commanders. They're tightening the screws everywhere. From migration offices to military tribunals. If anyone thought that serving in the modern army of a civilized European country was just about wearing a nice uniform and weekend parades, the Polish Ministry of Justice is ready to dispel those illusions. Friends, that's the information. Thank you very much for your attention. A reminder, transfer go. Send money to your family and loved ones. You can write the city you watched from. Hello to the entire working class, truck drivers, machinists, and computer guys. That's all for now. See you next time.